Hello, welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I'm Allison Troy. Today we are going to be doing a test video where I try the Artisto 72 color pencil premium set to see if they are any good. A note about these is I actually bought this set about a year ago. And at the time, I filmed myself doing the swatch, and it was right before we moved. And I promptly packed the set, and in the process of moving, changed phones, lost the footage. So I don't have the original footage of doing the swatch, so that won't be part of the video. But we will do a couple pages using these pencils to see how they work, using various different paper types. issue is some of the leads on this were pretty soft. Both this red pencil and this caramel pencil had problems where they chipped. Another thing I noticed was some of the names on the side are not correct. This, for instance, blue says Castilian green, and the number for it is accurate and does reflect the correct color, which is A326, so this should be sky blue. So the name on the side is wrong. But it's right on this chart, and then on the inside of the 10 that it comes in, it also is the correct name. Just not on the pencil itself. Otherwise, I felt like with this paper, I got a pretty good blend of colors, as you can see. And I felt like it laid down pretty good. I will say these are, in my opinion, a cheaper quality of pencil. So as you can see, for the blue, like I had to sharpen it several times. So I used considerable more than I did for the red. Same with this green, where I had to sharpen it a couple times to get all the green down. So otherwise, for this page, it worked. Combination of the paper, of course. But also, I feel like the colors included in the set, I was able to find pretty much everything I needed for this strawberry shortcake page. So that's always a bonus. Strawberry shortcake does have a specific palette and vibe, and I felt like I was able to attain that with this set. These pencils worked really well on this paper, actually a little bit better than they did on the strawberry shortcake page. I was able to get really good coverage, and the colors came out really vibrant on this particular paper. Was not super happy with the skin tones for this. I'm sure for Caucasian skin it'll be fine, but I could not make a blend work. These pencils are pretty waxy, so I ended up just going with a flat brown, which is not ideal, so do keep that in mind. If you are going to be using pencils for a non-Caucasian skin tone, this set may not be your best option. A flat color like this is not really accurate to what the skin tone should look like. Other than that, it worked really well on this paper, and I do like the effects I was able to get. I did use a few paint pens for effects on the blast, but otherwise this is all just from the Artisto. So one of the limitations with this set for instance, Barbie, is there's a limited range of pinks. For most people, this is not going to be an issue. I do a lot of Barbie, so for me, it kind of is. There's still a pretty good range. I was able to get some variety. I was able to get the main pinks for her. I did use, again, some paint pens and some glitter gel pens, just because this particular look has some extra sparkle stuff. I was able to get sort of her shimmery tights, though, just using a light pink and then a purplish gray color that were in the box. So I feel like if I worked with this enough, I could get some of these effects without having to use paint pens. This set does have a really good range of grays, which is not often common in the 72 pencil set. So definitely you could do a lot as far as creating silvers with what's here. So that is really cool about this set, that there are that many grays. I feel like the blues and greens are pretty good. Again, a few more pinks and purples might be nice, but for a 72 pencil set, I think it's pretty in line with where it should be. There is a cream color in here, which is what I sort of use for the basic of the hair. A lot of these 72 pencil sets that I have done tests on recently have not had a cream, so that was really cool. The particular paper this is on was not the best for these pencils. As you can see, a lot of the white still came through. It's a little too toothy and not the right way for these pencils because they're pretty waxy, which is common in a budget pencil. So this paper was not the best choice, but again, that's part of why I do these the way I do. I try all my different papers just so that I can see what will work best. I'm still pretty happy with how this page came out, despite the limitations and despite the paper. These pencils worked really well with the paper in this book. This was actually the best experience I had with these pencils. This book is by Insight Editions, who is responsible for most of the modern adult coloring books for the pop culture properties that I buy. And I use this particular book a lot for these test videos because honestly, most of the people who would be buying any of the sets I test for adult coloring are probably going to be doing so to color in something from an Insight Edition book. I was able to get a fairly decent blend on the paper in this book, and I felt like I was even able to get several layers for more vibrant colors without too much effort. A few caveats about these pencils. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I bought these about a year ago before our move, and I accidentally packed them and just recently found them. I spent $25 on the set when I bought it. In the years since, it looks like the price has gone up to about $35 on Amazon at the time of recording. But in the last few weeks, as I've been working on this video, that price has fluctuated between $30 to $35. And at least once in that time, there was a coupon for them that brought the price down to roughly $28. For 72 pencils, I think even at $35, it's fairly affordable for a slightly nicer set. And I could definitely recommend this one if you're looking for a set that will pretty much cover what most people want out of adult coloring, if they want something a little bit more fancy than the Crayola colored pencil sets. Also, the name of the set has changed. Instead of Artisto, it's now called Artistic Eye, but it has the same art on the tin, and it's all the same colors. Just the name is different. As far as I can tell, the pencils inside are the same. Obviously, I can't tell for sure without buying the set again. Definitely not going to do that. But based on the reviews, it looks like it's still the same. And it's pretty likely that they fixed the problem with the name that was on the pencil that was wrong. So there is that. So at the end of the day, do I actually recommend these pencils? Yeah, they're fully capable of helping you get your adult coloring on, and they're pretty budget conscious. But so far in the test videos that I've done, they're not my favorite. I still like the So Color set the best, and that set is still available for a much lower and much more budget-friendly price. Anyway, with that, we're at the end of another video. If you liked the video, don't forget to smack the like, and if you'd like to see more like this, you should subscribe and set the bell notification. If there's another pencil set you'd like me to try, let me know in the comment. I have a ton of pencil sets I haven't even opened yet. The one you want me to try is probably in my stack. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next one.